Are you looking for true love, or are you looking for a good time? So, over the last few days, I've really been finding a lot of synchronicities and things coming up. Yesterday, while I was waiting for my dear adopted grandpa to show up, I was sitting on the beach and I overheard this young, I wouldn't even call them a couple. I think it was like their first date, or maybe they were just friends talking and they were getting to know each other or something. They were having a really deep, deep conversation. And it was just incredible listening to them, even though it was also kind of making me miss my true love, of course. I mean, I can't not miss him. I mean, we used to have the best conversations even within 5 minutes that we'd get together. So, like, it was just, when you know, you know. And this man and woman, like, they were just talking, and he was saying things about his childhood and what he had coded of love with he had a mother that had gotten remarried to like a stepfather, and like they'd been friends, and it was just beautiful how he was talking about his childhood and his family and what he'd learned. And then like there were other stories too, but like they went for a good hour. I would say at least an hour. I was trying to read my book, and I mean, it was also kind of hard to overhear this as I was doing my thing. But, you know, when people get into it and they're talking on the beach, like, no matter the fact that I was going to the quiet side of the beach, there were still people there. So I was happy when they did leave, not because I didn't enjoy it, but also because it was like, okay, I really needed to decompress and not be reminded of what I was still waiting for myself. Because it was like, I can't wait to sit down there for hours. And it got me really thinking, because, I mean, that to me, they were sitting beside each other. They were kind of facing towards each other. They were looking into each other's eyes. They were fully present. And they were just talking and saying, like, what are you looking for? And it's like, I'm looking for my partner. I'm looking for my best friend. I'm looking for the person that I can really build with. And then, like, he seemed to also have a lot of success. Like, he was talking about how he'd been building a company for a while. And she was, like, they were really engaged too. Like, not ring engaged, but like engaged in the conversation. So, I mean, it could either be that they become good friends and they stay good friends. I mean, I've got some amazing brothers in my life. My male friends that I call my brothers, who I am cheering for them and wanting them to call in their lady, or they already have their lady in their life. And I'm like, hey, like, right now, like this might be something nice for you and your lady to do together. Like I'm really wanting that for them. They deserve that love. And I already know who mine is. So it's easy for me to be that sister in their life, because it's like, I know there is absolutely no romantic attachment whatsoever. We are just cheering for each other. And if we got together and had a 3-hour conversation, we know we're coming home to our person, our true love. And it's all about our true love. So this ties into some of my other talks about how men and women need to be friends, because my brothers have really helped me understand men at a level that I otherwise wouldn't have had access to. I wouldn't have been able to understand my true love. And it's just, when I had that, it's like, yes, you want the one that is your best friend, that you also have that chemistry with, that your goals and your values align, that you can really see yourself building something together. Because when you don't have the energy or the time for the passion, and maybe something is going on where you have to be away from each other, you want to be able to have that strong bond of friendship. So when he was saying that and she was agreeing and everything, I'm like, this is beautiful. Either it's going to turn out that they're each other's person and this is the start of something incredible, or they're going to be great friends, they're going to cheer each other on, and there's no hard feelings on either side. They're really moving towards their dreams and they'll find their people. They were both so kind, so loving, and the things that they said, it reminded me of my friends, and it also reminded me of my true love. And then today I was scrolling and there's this account I follow with the guy that's got the red flag, and he runs back and forth and he waves the red flag, but he's also got a green flag, and he points out when somebody's a red flag or when it's like a green flag. And I guess somebody else had done a reel and he'd taken this as well to kind of show, because they were making fun of this really sweet guy. So apparently for a first date with this woman, who you can't see the woman, but she comes up and she sees that instead of taking her to a nice fancy restaurant like she was expecting for her first date, he had set up a picnic and he had set up candles and he had cut up a mango, and she had been 45 minutes late too. And he's sitting there and he's doing something really sweet. And she is just crapping all over it. And it's like, girl, you do not deserve him. But some woman is going to take one look at that picnic and she is going to be like, oh my gosh, you did that? That is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I would love that. And then another thing had popped up in my feed that had said, what's your ideal first date with your true love? Like, if you could have your ideal first date, what would it be? And it got me thinking what I would really want. And I was sitting on the beach when I'd seen this question. And all I wanted in that moment, it's like, you know what an ideal first date would be? For us to just sit on the beach and talk for hours and look into his eyes. I just want to look into his eyes and I want to hear him talk, and I want him to do exactly like what that guy that was behind me and talking to that girl. I want that. I want to just sit on the beach and talk and lose track of time and watch the sun go down. And there were actually fireworks at the beach yesterday, and it would have been nice to also sit and watch that. And I mean, maybe he packs a little miniature picnic. I don't know. I'm not much of a drinker, but I do love a virgin strawberry daiquiri. And I was thinking, well, maybe there's a strawberry daiquiri mix, and maybe he got some sugar and he put it around the glass, and maybe he had like one of those like little crank ice shaver things that kids get, and he did a shaved ice thing while at the beach, and he gave that to me, and maybe he cut up a little side of a strawberry and he put that on the glass. That would be perfect. Or maybe he's got a poetry book with him and he starts just reading some poetry to me and my head's in his lap. That would be perfect. We could just sit and we could just talk, and it's like, that's how you know. If you're thinking fancy dates and a whole bunch of like, yeah, you can still do that. But what if you didn't have any money? I mean, even if they did have the means to give you that, if you really like the person, you just want to spend time with them. You don't care if you're spending money or not. Even if they happen to be loaded, you don't care. In fact, way back when I'd first met him, and I was working really hard to get out of my toxic situation with my ex, and I was aware it's like, this man that I love so much, that I am so into, we couldn't start anything right now. That would be wrong. because I'm not going to cheat. I mean, emotionally, I'm already like recognizing that if you are falling in love with somebody else, then like clearly that other relationship it's not it. And I realized that. It's like, oh, okay, no, this is it. Because ever since I fell in love with him, I have not been able to go anywhere else. No matter how much attention I've gotten, I cannot go anywhere else. It's just like, there's him, and then there's everyone that's not him. So it's like, he is like, out of a sea of a million men, he's the one I'm looking for. And in fact, I'd had a dream where I was wandering some sort of hallway into a corridor, into a lobby, and there was like so many men, and I was just searching for him. So I just knew. It's like, for me, I need to play it cool. I can't do anything, but I'm going to continue to nurture this friendship because it's the friendship first. And I'm going to heal myself, and I'm going to keep doing that because I'm going to take care of his heart too. I'm going to take care of the heart of my ex, even though he's done things that have been hurtful. I'm going to do this with integrity. And so while I was healing, I had to have an outlet somehow. And I'm a writer. So I wrote up a scenario where we ran into each other, and he finally asked me out. And then I wrote the part where I'm getting ready to go out on this date, and I don't know what to expect. And of course, he shows up, and he's gone all out. Like, he shows up with flowers, and he's in a blazer, and he's all dressed up, and he's just gone like the extra mile, and he's even gone and rented a limo. But of course, the reason I put him in a limo was because I wanted to cuddle up with him in the back seat of that limo. And just, it's like, but he was basically planning to take me out to dinner for my favorite meal that he kind of still owes me, because we had a little thing going about that years ago. And so he's like, well, I mean, we have a choice here. We can go to the fancy restaurant, or we can go back to my place and set it up there. And I'm like, I just want to be with you. So, I mean, what that date turns into, I'm a romance writer, but I mean, he ends up canceling the whole taking me out to dinner thing, and instead having the food delivered and set up. And we have the candlelight, and he's just set up a small table in his living room, but it's just so romantic, and the lighting is low, and we're having our meal. And I mean, again, I'm a romance writer and I'm a Scorpio, but I'm fading to black. That's my imagination, not for anybody else. He knows. I told him. So then when we've kind of gotten a little bit of that out of our system, we go and walk along the beach, and we just talk. It's the moon is out, and we're just walking along the beach, hand in hand, just talking. And then we go back, and I mean, it's just, he's my best friend. And it doesn't matter how long I have to wait. And it doesn't matter what he comes in with. If he's like, look, I don't know how this is going to go, and can we just talk? And I'd be like, that's literally all I wanted from the start. When I was calling you out to come and talk with me, like that's really what I wanted. I just wanted to talk with you. I mean, everything else I wasn't ready for back then. I am now, but back then I wasn't. And that's how you know. When you're thinking about your perfect date with your perfect person, if you're doing it from a place of still trying to get love outside of yourself and you're still doing it from a place of what you think is the expectation of going all out is, it's going to be fancy restaurants, and it's going to be spending a bunch of money and wining and dining. And yeah, that stuff can be fun too. But let me just tell you, I was wined and dined. I was taken out. I was having a lot of money spent on me before. And while outwardly that looked like I was being treated like a princess, there were sometimes like my birthdays or those date nights, I wasn't having fun. He wasn't having fun. Outwardly, it looked like, oh, they're out on the town, they're without the kids, and they're happy. No, we weren't happy. In fact, probably the best dinner and the best, most connected moment of that entire relationship was when I ended it. Because that day, he had asked to see me. It was about a week after I had moved in with the kids into the den, and I hadn't told him yet, but he kind of knew, and I didn't know that he knew all of it, and he was still trying to say I can change and I want to try again, and like, he didn't see it. He didn't see that it just wasn't going to work. And I wasn't doing it out of hatred. I wasn't even doing it because I'd fallen in love with somebody else. I was doing it because I realized that if I had fallen in love with somebody else and I recognized now who I was, he needed to realize who he was, and he needed to find his. And he hasn't found her yet, but he's moving closer. I've noticed he's moving closer. And when he finds her, I know he's going to be like, I don't even, like, everything after her, it's completely, and I'll be like, yeah, I know. And I'm happy for you. I'm truly happy for you. And I want you to have that, and I want her to love the kids when they're with you. Because, like, yeah. So, when I left him, he had taken me out for dinner at one of my favorite restaurants. He had gotten the appetizers. He had gotten, like, we even got dessert and everything. We had a really nice dinner. But the whole time I knew, it's like, okay, he keeps trying to tell me about all the things that he's doing, that he's all excited about, but there's just nothing there. I mean, yeah, this is nice, but it's not. Like, I'm going to be ending it. I'm going to have to tell him that it's over. And we had actually driven. We'd taken a drive, and we'd gone up, and we saw the view of the city from a place where there were lots of flowers and everything. It was a nice area. And I mean, a lot of people would go there for a date, but I'm going to basically tell him, it's like, look, you know, we had 13 years together. I'm not going to say that our marriage failed. And I mean, like, for me, marriage is not about the piece of paper. So I'm just going to be very clear. I was never legally married to him, which is a blessing because it was very easy to get out of that. I didn't have to sign anything. I didn't have to go through lawyers. We didn't have to do that. We could just amicably step away. It would have been a lot messier if I had been married to him officially. But for me, marriage always felt, this is the person I want to build with. This is the person I want to have a family with. This is the person I want to commit to. And when he had wined and dined me when I was younger, I had been very resistant to marriage and kids. But over time, I recognized, like, I needed some security because my security was going away. My dad was moving into a smaller place. I was 23. I needed to be out on my own. And the job I was doing, I was an assistant manager for retail, but they weren't paying me very much. And I recognized I needed to move in with him. And then I got dependent on him because I'd actually lost my job. That's a whole other thing. And it wasn't even my fault, but you know, I've just had a lot of things that have just been like, hey, that's not fair, that's not right. And it's given me that empathy and that ability to see injustice and to fight it, so that as I get more powerful in the world, I can remind people, it's like, hey, there's people on the bottom that this thing is going to affect. And let me just tell you what that's like. So, for me, all of this stuff happened. I became dependent on him. I was really good at my jobs. I loved what I was doing for my work, but I would never get paid the recognition that I really deserved for the amount of effort and stuff that I put in. And then about 4 years into that relationship, the cracks were already showing. I mean, they'd been showing from the beginning. But again, I was dependent, and I got pregnant. And he had already wanted a family, and it was like, well, you know, I mean, this is just what a relationship is. I coded that's what love is. And he's good enough, so, like, it wasn't true love. Because he definitely was no Damon Salvatore. He was not any of the romantic heroes in any of my stories. And, I mean, I even liked Chuck Bass and Blair Waldorf together from Gossip Girl. I mean, I had a whole bunch of different pairings that's like, my partner was none of those things. So when I recognized, like, when I found the one, my true love, he hit every single one of those things on my secret list of what my dream would be. So I was like, look, your dream girl's out there, and I've been keeping you from being able to find her. So I'm letting you go. I'm not doing it because I hate you, and I'm not doing that because you suck or anything like that. I'm doing it because we're hurting our kids. We're showing them the wrong things. You see it. We're not good together. But maybe we can heal apart. Maybe we can be friends. And I mean, we went down the hill again, and we stopped off at the 7-Eleven, and he got me a Slurpee, and he got himself one, and he was crying, and it was sad, and he wanted a hug, and I gave him a hug, but it was over. I mean, it hit him hard. It did hit him hard. And at the same time, I was compassionate with it. I wasn't spiteful with it. I wasn't sitting there going, good, he should suffer. No, because that's not who I am anymore. Maybe in the past when I was wounded, I was like that, but not now. I mean, there was a little tiny part of me that was just a little bit vindicated after all I'd gone through. I am a Scorpio. But for the most part, no. It's like, good, he's going to learn his lesson and he's going to rise up. And he is working on himself, and he is getting better for the kids, and we have that sort of working friendship. It's still in progress, but, you know, you don't have to hate anybody that you dated in the past. Even if they were really awful, you can recognize, hey, they were wounded. And there was a part of me that was dancing with that crazy. But I don't dance with that crazy no more. And that actually allowed me to be more conscious of my own patterns and my own tendencies. And I recognize, it's like, I need to be independent right now. Because I had been codependent, I needed to be independent. And that meant that as much as I loved my true love, I had to focus on the friendship, and I also had to focus on myself first. So I focused on myself. I knew, it's like, I'd like to sit and talk with him. But I mean, on the other side of it, it would be like, come on, it's me. So me sitting there all vulnerable and sexy and effortlessly sexy, he was probably afraid that he would not be able to keep his hands to himself and then he'd spook me. I mean, he knows now that that wouldn't have happened. But I also recognize that when I ran into him last year, after I'd done so much to heal myself, I didn't realize that there were some things that I needed to work through because of how intense our connection is and like how connected it is. It did spook me, and I own that. And I owned that to him. I said, look, yeah, I was scared. And even as I was scared, I was still coming towards you and I was still telling you. So I wouldn't cross that line. I wasn't going to cross that line because I believe a relationship needs to be entered when two people are free to be able to do that and everything is cleaned up on either side. No exes, no situations where you're technically in a relationship and you're trying to get out of it. Like, none of that. You got to give it time. You got to heal up enough to be able to do it. You got to clean things up on your side. And that is how I know that if you're still looking for the whining and dining, and that's all you're looking for, and somebody sweet comes up to you and they're like, I just want to sit and talk. Can we just sit and talk? And if you have the attitude of, what do you mean sit and talk? Aren't you going to take me out? Well, here's the other side of it. Now, women have a different game than men, but we kind of play the same game. Women play the game, we've been taught this through society, that our power lies in our ability to lure a man. So for a woman, we need to take that off the table and be their friend. To see if they are truly in it to be our friend, or if they were just in it to get us into bed. For men, they know how to play the game. And my ex was also very good at it, and he knew. It's like, to get a woman's attention, you spoil them. You take them out, you wine and dine them, you treat them like royalty and a princess, and you pay for everything. Well, the other side of the coin, boys, is how do you know if a girl is really into you and not just looking to see what she can get? Is she asking you to take her out on a fancy date, or is she asking you to just come hang out with her and talk? Just sit and talk. You don't have to spend a dime. Now, if you're going on a first date, do it cheap. Even if you're loaded, do it cheap. Like that sweet guy who did the picnic thing. I mean, who knows? He may have shown up like that, but he might have some company or like billions of dollars. But she'll never know that. Because he came as himself and he laid out that beautiful little picnic thing so they could sit and talk. And she threw it in his face. So guys, do you really want someone who's just in it for a good time? Or are you looking for your true love? I mean, if you're looking for somebody to just play with and you don't really have any feelings for them, yeah, of course, you can play the game. I've done the same thing. If I was just looking for a good time, I was just looking for some guy to make me feel not so lonely, I knew how to play that game. In fact, when my ex I'd caught him on Tinder and he was whining and dining his, and I was over there and I was throwing fire in the DMs of other men, and they would beg me and they'd give all their attention to me. But it didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel good. In fact, when I'd actually tried, like, didn't matter what he said to me and everything, and it didn't matter how much he was trying to do his mojo. I'm like, this isn't working. Why isn't this working? I know why it's not working. Because you get to a certain point that you just want your true love. You want that person that you grow old with, that you build with, that's your best friend. Rather than somebody that you're just waiting for each other to die. You don't really talk. Maybe you only connect in the bedroom, but it's not so great anymore. You're doing your own thing, and neither one of you is even, like, it doesn't work. It's sad. It's attachment. And that's not good enough for me anymore. Because I want the one that I can sit beside and I can just look into his eyes and I can just see everything there and just sit there and watch House of the Dragon with him and then turn to him afterwards and say, that was amazing. Let's get into a 3-hour discussion on all the intricacies of what we just watched, or read something in a book. Sit on the beach and just watch people. Watch others fall in love. Watch our kids. Get into a discussion about that. Get into a discussion about something else that either reminded us of a memory from our past, or like either when we were together or when we were apart. Just like get into those discussions. He could call me up right now, out of the blue. The kids aren't coming home until tomorrow, but he could call me up and we could have a 3-hour talk. If he wanted to FaceTime me, I would do that, and that would be, I mean, it wouldn't be everything that I want because, again, he's not physically here, but just to look into his eyes. That's how you know. So who's the one, when you're thinking of your ideal person, where you would just sit there and talk for hours? Those people in your life that the conversation flows. I mean, I have friendships like that. But having that in my true love, that's like the best friendship ever. That's the person you want to marry. The one that's the most extraordinary person that when you watch them, you're just in awe of them. And you could listen to them talk. And it's just magical. It's just magic. The love is easy. The relationship itself is easy. The obstacles you face together, well, yeah, that gets to be difficult. I mean, we're all only human. But you're doing it with your best friend beside you. So, I don't know what the rest of this week is going to bring, but I know what I want. I'm quite clear in what I want. And whenever he's ready, well, now he knows what my ideal date is, doesn't he? We don't even have to go anywhere. He can just call me up. Or we can just go sit somewhere. It can be really low key. Doesn't have to be some big grand reveal. I mean, he can do that at some point if he really, really wants to. But he doesn't have to. Date nights for me are as simple as curling up on the couch together and watching a movie or reading a book together and talking about the book. It's just being together. Because I had the other stuff. I had the going out to the movies and the going out to dinner and attending family events and all of that, and weddings and things. And I just remember near the end in 2020, there was a wedding that we attended together. We left the kids with a babysitter, and there was a wedding that we had attended. And I was alone for most of the night while he was drinking, and then I wanted to go to sleep, so I went and laid down in the back of the truck, because we were actually kind of doing a camp out, and I climbed in there and I went to sleep, and then he woke me up, and it should have been romantic, and it could have been if it had been the right person, but at that point it just wasn't anymore. He had wanted to dance with me, and I was just like, this just doesn't feel right anymore. I knew way back in July of 2020 that it just wasn't right anymore. It was done. And I just had to start focusing on myself. So I started working on my book and started moving towards my business. And then in the fall, I realized why it wasn't going to work anymore, and what had been waiting for me. So, if something's not working right now in your life, if you yourself are recognizing like something's not working in your relationship and you've got to get out of it, and you need to rip that Band-Aid off, you won't be alone. You'll find your best friend. Maybe not right away, but they're out there. And you're just holding yourself back from it. But eventually the universe will kick your ass into gear, and you can either leave gracefully or it can hit you over the head. It's your choice. But we all get to where we're meant to be when it's that important. So, I love you. And wherever you are at right now in your path to finding true love, to finding yourself, to finding your path, keep going. Even if it feels dark right now, keep going. And if you're starting to see the light, keep going. And if you've been in the light for a while, but you're starting to run into blocks that are kind of pulling you back, keep going. Keep trusting. The best is yet to come. I truly believe that. And I look forward to the moment when my true love reaches out and I get to sit on that beach and just be with him. That's going to be amazing. And for now, I can dream. And I can keep shining my light. And I can keep supporting my friends, my brothers and my sisters, and loving my community, and loving my children, knowing that the next day is going to bring something completely different, or something is going to inspire me. And who knows when the surprise is coming. I always do get a surprise. You see, I trace back patterns, and I look back on certain events on certain days of certain years, and I'm starting to see I get a lot of surprises that I wasn't expecting that turn into epic adventures. So I don't know what my next epic adventure is. I know what I'd like it to be. I know exactly who I want beside me. So, go out, be yourself. Don't play the game if you're looking for true love. Instead, look for those deep and connected friendships And when you find that person, you'll just know. You'll just know. It will hit you right then. And there will be a before them and an after them. And you will know that pivotal moment. And just keep moving towards it. And if you're scared, work through it. It's worth it. I promise you it's worth it. I love you. Namaste.